you're known as being, you know, an icon in hop use in beers and creating double IPA styles and these type of things. I was just more curious about, over the time with all the batches and the experimental stuff you've been doing and learning and all the different hop types, etc. Are there different approaches to, you know, when you're doing with hops and when you're doing what you're doing with the dry hops that might be different? Are there different things within each of these regimens depending on the type of beer you're making, the flavors you're getting?
Well, I'd start out by saying that for, you know, as a bit of advice to, you know, a home brewer or, you know, a new professional brewer, the best thing that we ever did was back at Corbel, we made this beer called Hop To It, and we still make it on occasion at the pub when a new hop comes out. We want to put out a single hop beer. Although now with this, we do all of the experimental work on the front end before it even gets out, you know, to the trade. But we made this beer Hop To It at Corbel, and we started with like super old school hop varieties like Boolean and Bromley Cross. I mean, those are varieties that most homebrewers now go, what? What do you, Bromley what? You know, or Boolean or Eroica. These are all early hops. And we started with those and then worked into, you know, more notable hops, Cascade, you know, Centennial, Columbus, so on, you know, Northern Brewer. And then, you know, just about then when we were finishing all those hops in Hop To It, the single hop beer, there was new stuff coming out like Simcoe and Amarillo and a Tannum and so on and so forth. And so we literally got every hop we could and made a batch of Hop To It, and we would release it commercially and sell it to our accounts and through the deli at Corbel. And that to me is the most important and easiest way to learn about a hop. You would almost never take that hop and use it again as a single hop format, but it really tells you if it's got good bitterness, if it's good flavor, good aroma, if maybe the bitterness is harsh and maybe it's not such a good, like Amarillo, terrible bittering hop, absolute harsh, a lot of almost tannin type flavor, but you know, beautiful in the flavor and aroma. But yet if you use too much Amarillo, it gives you kind of a burnt motor, diesel kind of quality, but yet in small amounts, it's just absolutely beautiful. So that's, you know, that's where we're using the pilot system now. But in the past, we would just put these beers out commercially and let the consumers be a part of the process. Them
as like the actual individual hop variety?
Yeah, it would be Hop To It, and it was all draft. So it'd be like Hop To It, Cascade, Hop To It, Simcoe, Hop To It, Warrior.
Pretty cool idea.
And then I remember when we did Hop To It, Warrior, and Simcoe. We put out the Simcoe, then we came back with Warrior. It's just how we got the experimentals. And the Simcoe wasn't Simcoe yet. It was YCR 014, which was Yakima Chief Research number 14. That was Simcoe. I think YCR 004, that became Palisade. YCR 11, I think, was Warrior. So anyways, all these different experimental hops we were getting that became hops. And like I remember we put the Simcoe hop out, single beer out, and then Warrior next. Well, the consumers at a lot of our bars that we were selling to were like, well, there's nothing wrong with the one with the Warrior, but after Simcoe, it paled in comparison because Warrior was such a clean tasting hop, where Simcoe was so explosive and had so much great flavor. Yeah, but the consumers were really getting into it. So
that's a good feedback to know.
So that's how we start. We do a new hop. We do a single hop beer with it always first. Now on the pilot system. And then we'll work it into the rest of a recipe if we like it. You know, the thing now is there's so many new hops out there that you just can't.
It's hard to keep up.
You can't use them all. And like we connected with Simcoe, and that's I consider that kind of my hop. I mean, it's something that you know, there's a lot of new breweries using Citra. Well, Citra, our recipes were already kind of developed, you know, when Citra came out, and I've never brewed with Citra. Haven't even pilot brewed with it. For one, you can't get it. You know, it's just so hard to get. But whereas Simcoe, we've got a connection to the hop growers there, and you know, and we were using it when it was just an experimental hop. And Pliny was really the first, you know, double IPA to ever use it, and so, you know, with that in mind, you know, we've really kind of hooked on to Simcoe, whereas there's, you know, other breweries using Citra, and that's their like main hop in their double IPA or IPA, and so I guess my point is you can't use every hop out there, you know, on a professional level.
You're running around all the time.
That's what makes homebrewing so great, though. You know, you can do whatever you want. It's your beer. But on the professional level, you know, I mean, you didn't see Ken Grossman go and change Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, you know, just because Cascade wasn't the new hop. You know what I'm saying? And so you know, or Liberty Ale is still an all Cascade beer.
Yeah.
And so at some point from a professional level, you just got to say, this is what I'm sticking with. And I may make some minor tweaks, and you know, I may insert a hop here or there, but in general, you have to keep the flavor profile the same or pretty close, because that's what the consumer is expecting.
Right.
And but that's not to say we don't make some new one-off beers at the pub. Happy Hops is using the new 369 hop. I've got another experimental hop that we're going to make a new beer with next week at the pub. So, but as it goes for using the hops, you know, once we know what it's best at, then we will plug it in and
design from there, kind of like a palette.
Yeah. With aroma for dry hopping or finishing hops, we're really looking at the oil content and specifically what, you know, oils it's, you know, is it high in myrcene? Is it, you know, high in, you know, this, that, or the other thing? The
linalols and all that.
Yeah. Okay. And then knowing what those flavors contribute. But again, that all goes back to having done a single hop beer to know what it contributes. And that's the other thing is that I think one of the value added that we bring, and a lot of the other breweries that some of the hop breeders and growers and brokers have connected with, is that you know, you can grab a sample of hops and rub it and smell it, and it can be one thing, but when you put it in the beer, it could be different.
It totally
and
changes.
A lot of times it is. And there was a this hop,
the yeast interaction, grain bill interaction, everything. It's going to shift.
It's going to change it.
So
so that it's the brewers now working with the hop growers on some of these new varieties has really actually sped up the timing of a hop going from being planted to being commercialized. It used to be a 10-year process.
Wow.
Now it can be a 7 or 8 year process just by brewers using the hops earlier on. And if they find they don't like it, then the grower can cut their losses, rip it out, and move on to a hop that may be more usable.
Got it.
So.
What have you learned over, because I know you've done a lot of different variations on dry hopping.
Right.
You know, I mean, is there certain styles going through? Because actually, you know, talking with Ryan and the guys coming with us, we were going through before coming out here a list of questions we wanted to make sure that we had, you know, we're sure to ask you. Is he was saying, I know there's something about, you know, he's maybe doing like sets of hops and then changing those out and other sets of hops. Right. And you alluded to it a little bit when you're talking back in the day when you had the big growlers and you were pumping from one to the other to kind of and adding a new batch.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that? Like, what's your kind of like you feel is the longest period of time you want to be before you swap them out or get off it?
I think the thing we've learned the most recently is that a longer dry hop time doesn't mean more aroma. But what you do get is and sometimes you may get vegetal, but what you do get and what we find in our blends is what we call perceived bitterness. Yeah. You know, so you're getting a drying, so it has nothing to do with the aroma. It's the tannins. And,
but your spikes in the IBU is not really changing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's something that from a home brewer standpoint, it's probably not something that they think about, that, you know, dry hopping isn't just about aroma. It can be about flavor. And you know, the finish as well.
Oh, yeah.
From an aromatic standpoint, we have 3 year-round IPAs. Our Russian River IPA, our Blind Pig, which is an IPA that we dry hop twice, but it's only it's a 6.25% beer, and then we have Plain of the Elder, which is dry hop twice as well, but it's an 8% beer.
Got it.
Different hop bill, so on and so forth. And so we really are trying to capture different hop aromas and flavors on the Russian River IPA with only a single dry hop for like a 5 or 6 day, so it's a pretty quick dry hop. We want that to be a milder dry hop beer. The Blind Pig has a pretty big dry hop charge, and in fact almost equal to the Pliny, but different hops or different combinations and quantities of hops. And with that, you know, because it's a 6.25% alcohol beer, there's less malt there to kind of block and muddy up some of the aromatics. So I actually find that the Blind Pig often is more aromatic than the Pliny, even though the Pliny is a bigger beer.
The sweet of the malt kind of.
And the bigger malt in the Pliny tends to kind of get in the way of some of the aromatics. And then, and you know, Pliny is probably more of a balanced hop approach because it's got a little more malt, and which affects the aroma, of course, as well. And I really like the idea of the double dry hop, though. But for the Blind Pig, we're only going 8 to 10 days. For the Elder, we're at...
Is that on a single shot, or are you doing one shot per period and coming off? So it's 8 to 10 days total with 2 passes, or
exactly.
how is that? Is that how long for a single pass do you feel is before you start to get?
We usually go 5 or 6 days before the end of the dry hop, we shoot the second set of hops into the tank.
Okay.
And in some cases, like with the younger, we actually go 4 dry hops, and each time we dump the hops out from the previous time.
Okay.
With the pig and the elder, we actually leave the first dry hops in, and the second set of dry hops just fall on top of the first dry hops because we're going for some of this perceived bitterness. And yet
to
with,
balance out the residual that's still left,
just because we like
the bigger
that,
malt?
we like that flavor.
Okay.
All of our beers are super dry. I mean, most of our beers finish at 2.5 to 3 Plato tops.
Okay.
So they're pretty dry, you know, beers. So that'd be 1010 to 1012 gravity.
Right.
But with the younger, we go 4 1-week dry hops, adding the dry hops, let them settle. After a week, remove them, add the second dry hops, they settle, remove them until we're done with 4 separate dry hops.
And
so
how are you removing them?
all of our tanks are cone bottom, so we just
drop them out?
open the valve,
Got it.
dump. And while we're doing that, we're dumping more yeast as well. So.
Okay, cleaning it up.
And with that, they're just like quick little bursts of hops for, you know, week period, and yet we find that the aroma is a little more expressive with those quick little dry hops, and you're getting less of that vegetative quality and more of the bright hop aroma.
It'd be interesting to see, like, I wonder there's because the hop, there's an integration, you know, into the beer for that period of time. And I think like less over a period of time going into it probably makes a better integration.
Yeah.
Going from there, because I think like the same thing with oak, a lot of times, you know, you'll have, you know, if the end game is to have, you know, such a percentage, if you were to take, you know, all of that boost, you know, dump it in, it kind of like bombs it in a sense, it's a little shaky and it doesn't really come together in the same way. And I wonder if you would do the same amount of hops of what you're doing over a period of like the 4 additions, if you would boosh all at once and take it out and then do another one side by side with a sequential for the better integration as it's coming in.
Yeah.
Have you played with that at all?
Well, yeah, because we went from
that's why you smile a bit.
Yeah, we went from a single dry hop. Let's use Blind Pig as an example.
Yeah.
That used to be 1 10-day dry hop.
And
then we took the same quantity of hops and split them in a way, and we're also, it's not just the same hops. We're using certain hops later on that we think will highlight the aromas better. But they, you know, they don't write books on this stuff.
No,
this is all experimental.
Well, exactly. That's why we're asking you.
And it's the beauty of you know, brewing is that it's so personal. You know, dry hopping is like barrel beers. It's very personal.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you like. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
You know, I've had beers that I'm like, boy, I don't like this, but you know, someone else loves it. So you know, that's again, it's just a part of brewing that is not so objective. It's very subjective.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong answer. So.
Yeah, nice.